Okay, so we were very lucky to have three great talks. First, we saw the bridging of language and vision models, which I think is a very exciting area of research and very promising. Then we had the talk by Violeta on how to do some research with a good social concept motivation, and then this very challenging scenario where we have large, so few data points, but huge dimensionality as well. And then the great talk by Jose, where he showed this cross modality with the sketch modality, which I think is very interesting because it's like a very condensed version of the visual information, and also both on the discriminative and the generative tasks. So now we will have an open panel for discussion, so we can ask technical questions, or we can ask more general questions about doing research in Latin America. So I will open the floor for questions. We have one here.
Okay, I have a question. I work with imaging data, and I see that the most difficult problem is to get ground truth data. Sometimes if I want to solve a problem, I need to get the ground truth. I don't have the ground truth, and it's very difficult to collect. What are your recommendations to collect this data?
Yeah, who wants to go?
Oh, maybe I have the same problem in the medical applications. In another areas, it could be easier than in mine. Here we don't have usually a ground truth because it's all based on the experience of the experts. So the best thing that we can have is a gold standard. It's not the real truth, but it's the best approximation that we can get. So in this scenario, I only have to collect the samples and ask the experts. I know that if we work in another application, for example, if we are segmenting some clothes things, we can prepare some web page and ask everyone to segment, right? And then, I don't know, maybe some gift card or something for the one who labeled more items. But there are some areas in which there is not factible to have a ground truth like in mine, and we need to stay okay with the gold standard and only have patience.
Okay, approach the pathologists, for example, for your problem and ask them, convince them that it is important to have the ground.
Yes, and the pathologists in my case are very, very busy people. Busy, and they have a lot of money, so my research funds are not enough to offer something, and they only have love for research, and we need to stay every week very kindly, please don't forget me, remember me, please, and please, and please. Okay. That's only for my case.
Yes. Yeah, just to add about the question, actually getting data is a problem of all tasks in machine learning, especially for real problems like e-commerce, medical problems. Even though you can collect data, maybe you are discarding valuable data because that data couldn't be labeled. So my idea is to mix some, or to use semi-supervised models, to use self-supervised model that can take advantage of unlabeled data. Okay, but always you will need to have ground truth for evaluation, because you need some metrics to determine the effectiveness of your model. So that's the problem. I
can add something. Yeah. I think there are at least two stages of dealing with data. There is a first stage, which is more, I think, is more exploratory, which is really valuable for you to look and label the data manually, to become one with the data, as someone said. Because it lets you also know different aspects of the problem, and maybe to find some new area which is not covered in the literature. So I think this part is very important, and once you identify the problem, there are some tools now. I mean, it's easy to build hindface space with some basic annotation interface and leverage the enthusiasm of many students and send them these links to that. So you can transform this annotation process in a collective effort. But once you have identified the effect you want to measure. Yeah, doing that at scale, I think is a matter of money and time. But I think you can build tests, evaluation sets that reflects the phenomena you want to look at, without going into like large scale.
Okay. I have a very related.
So there was a question before. So.
No. If it's related, maybe.
Behind you, actually.
I would like to mention something about your case. I think it's very important the participation of the health organizations in labeling. There's two ways to do that easily, without saying no all the time. The first one is when they see the images and do the diagnosis. So they target the whole image as cancer, for example. And then you don't have exactly the label in the part of the image, but you have the whole image label. That's a very good advance, because then you can go in for the second stage. For another human, just to label part of the image, which is already cancer, which is much easier for that person to label it without the pathologist differences in time and different people. It works like that. I mean, if somebody sends an image that already knows that it's cancer, I will find it easier than if I don't know if it's labeled as cancer or not. So that's a very important part. So they can implement a system where they can label automatically. They already have it in the digital historical medicine documentation. So after that, you can use, I mean, the people who are learning about image recognition, health, academic institutions, just to label inside that image, drawing the part of it which is the cancer cell, for example. So then you will have everything labeled in that way, easily. I'm not saying that it will not take years, but it will look massive. And you will not have the no, it will be yes all the time, because it will help them just to learn how to target that an interpretation of that images like they do today. It could be a great source of images for them to learn, which they don't have, even without artificial intelligence. They don't have it. They have to go to the university and label and target few images. They don't have much more experience when they have to go to work for those people. Then they will have that. The second thing, it's very interesting that you mentioned, it was how to reduce that huge image to something that is handleable. And I don't think I didn't understand much the whole thing that you said, but I wanted to ask you afterwards. But I have an idea of how to do that in a different way. So I will, it's like reducing the image, it's a perfectly grid thing, then the interpretation of each grid or each patch, then aggregate again, but just with the yes or no or the probability of cancer. Then you have another raster there. You can go and and smaller, make it smaller after a certain level that you can handle it, the whole image. And then you have to decide from all the other composites and the last one, just to know if which part could be the real cancer cells. You have the opportunity then just to just get that part of the image only that you know that it's high probability that you have cancer cells there, even if you don't know exactly where. So in that case, the distribution of the cancer cell in the image it won't be that huge. I mean, it will be reduced a lot, and maybe you can start over again, but with a small part of the image, pass it again, and maybe it's a way to reduce it effectively. It will take long, but
sorry to interrupt you. So, in the interest of time, so
yeah,
can you
sorry.
wait?
We can talk about later. Okay.
Okay.
But I want to mention all this because I think it's very important in the practice
Yes.
part of the applying the technology, because sometimes we forgot about that part. As you said, I know it will work, but I don't have that labels.
Yes.
So that part is really important. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, do you want to comment on? Do you want to comment on that?
No, we can talk later just to
Okay.
to give
Thank you for the
space.
comments. There was another question.
You can go or I can go.
I wanted to ask you a question about the interpathology difference that you mentioned. To what degree could you say that the model provides an objective answer to that? And maybe it doesn't represent maybe you don't have the same problem with different models, let's say.
Yeah, but we need to have the focus that in this area, what we want to do is to have some reproducible results, always the same answer for the same biopsy, and to be that the staff doesn't know that we are a machine. We need to be some in like the mean of the pathologies, like a second opinion, but with the guarantee that we always have the same answer for the same input. So if we can have small differences with all the pathologies that participate in the study, this is our goal reached, no more. But we only have to have in mind that it depends also of the quality of the experts, because all the data is labeled according to their experience. So if we choose some pathologies that, I don't know, it's without experience, all the pathologies are in the same level, we are not having good results, because we can be as good as him only, right? So we need to have a pool of pathologies with some experience, different grades of experience also, just to have some distribution that we can compete and train according to that.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Yes.
It's a short one. It's for the generative modeling people in the room. Don't you think that the evaluation metrics that we use, like FID and KID, are running short now, especially with diffusion models that are almost quite close to zero already using metrics like FID. So what do you think about that?
Jose, do you want to go?
Yes. Actually, yeah, we also have had some problems with the metrics. Some metrics, classical metrics, are not interpretable. Maybe it's difficult to interpret the metrics. So this is not a problem also. Okay, we need to rethink in ways of to evaluate these kind of models. Okay, yes, we need to work in it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I can talk also from my experience. I think yeah, the FID was designed at a time when these generative models were still like starting to be developed, and the quality of the images was not so great. So now that we're getting to very, very good images, it is true that the FID cannot really reflect the differences in quality of different models. So, but I think this is an open problem in the community, and it's an open research problem. So very, very interesting question. Thank you. One question over there? Yes.
My question is more regarding the first presentation, and it's more like the semantic of a context. Imagine that you have a crowd people, and maybe in a demonstration, another situation that we have a crowd people, just like party, like Carnival in Brazil. So you were trying to describe these two types of situations. And I imagine that if I pass through the same model, the model will describe similarly. While people be like, they are all demonstration in both situations, the first demonstration and in Carnival. How we can like put context to the model to be more like.
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think it is the point of my talking part, which is maybe we should go beyond computer vision. To incorporate context, this is a social context. You only will, you know this is a demonstration and it's carnival because you live in a society and interact with people, and not because a computer vision model tells you that, okay, this is a crowd of people in both cases. And that's where the interesting things begins, because right now I think we are short on this part, like integrating the models with some larger views of what we are trying to understand of images. But it's, to me, it's an open question how to incorporate this context.
Thank you for the question. Any other question?
We have time. I have one more.
Yeah, we have time.
I have one related to the first question, and it's a very practical one, how to get data. I think we're all spending a lot of time creating dashboards and reinventing the wheel. And so I wanted to know your thoughts in toolboxes and share, like, if anyone in the room as well. The one that I use that is open source is from the group in Oxford. It's called VGG Annotator. It's open to annotate video. And I know cloud services have some services, but you have to pay. So what would be some good toolboxes that are state-of-the-art for annotating and active learning as well? So to pick what samples to annotate.
There is a tool which I think is open from the developers of Spacey, the NLP toolbox,
okay,
which you can incorporate images, and it has an active learning engine, so you can just drop all your images and it will train a model online and will show you the candidates, the next candidate to do the annotations. So I think this is a good option. Not aware about other options. In our case, the only annotation we have to have was a click, like between some options, or I think some cases of bounding boxes, which were really easy with any Python graphic tool. So it wasn't that the limitation, but to find enough students willing to do the work.
Yeah.
And maybe there is where there is something to gain to put the annotation tool in a way that engage people to do the work. Because if you look at it as something you have to do, maybe you lose the steam there.
So do you know if iPol has anything open source for annotating?
What?
iPol? Or no?
We have time for a couple more questions.
So how much of your work is related to the product lines of, in this case, Mercado Libre? How much of your work is related to, in this case, Mercado Libre or Mercado Pago, or is this like an independent thing? And how, if there's some relationship, how do you manage to do that?
I started Mercado Libre in last August, so I have 6 months in the company. My role is research, so I have to keep relations with universities. And this work in particular was pre-Mercado Libre, so I started a couple of years ago. And it's with a team which is based in Universidad de Córdoba, and I'm doing work with them also, which is kind of parallel, but Mercado Libre gives me the time to do this, so it's part of my role also. So it's not kind of splitting the time between Mercado Libre and work with academia, but trying to merge both. But it's a challenge.
Okay, so but now your work is doing research at Mercado Libre?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And is this research like derived from the product line, or is some independent thing? So how do you deal with that?
The research we do at Mercado Libre is applied research. It's within a company, so we have to make sure the outputs of our research are aligned to the needs of the company. So we have some projects now, and which are directly applied to technologies that are used inside Mercado Libre. So yes, yeah, the answer will be yes.
I have another question related to the first question. It is related to data. What are your thoughts about sharing data? I know that a lot of people are doing annotation. How can we avoid the effort of duplicating data? Should we create a repository just to play the data? What about regulations about the data privacy? Do you have any thoughts about that?
I can tell our experience working with some already established data set. What we did was release our annotations with a link to the original data. So if you get the data, you get the data under their license conditions. From us, you get the annotations we did on top of these already working data sets. So it wasn't a problem in our case, but if you want to release samples with annotations, yeah, it's a completely different world.
And also, I work so much of my time trying to develop in my department, Open Data DINF is the name, and it's a repository of all the data sets of all the academics, the professors of the department. Because when I started in these topics in 2012, my first problem was data. So I passed so much time of my PhD program collecting data. My postdoctoral studies were collecting data, and after that, collecting data. So every time I had a data set, a labeled data set, I put it public. I received a lot of queries to send the data set. So I have a page with a form, and they put the name, the email, and the institution, and automatically receive the data sets.
So, one quick follow-up, Violeta. So the data set that you presented today, is that open? Will that be released?
The last one of the cancer, breast cancer. No, it's not now. We're working on the paper. I think in 2 weeks it will be sent to the. Yes.
Oh,
we have the link there, but no, it's not working. The link now, but it's ready to work.
That's good.
Yes.
One comment about that. I think it would be really interesting for all the community if you not only release the data, but also organize a challenge on that data, because that helps a lot to have unified protocols for evaluation. And on the other hand, it will help you as well to get citations.
Yeah.
But let's say that the main product of that is that all the community will benefit from that. And the experience from the challenge will help other people to build other data sets. So it's just a recommendation.
Thank you. Yes, great recommendation.
So I think we are on time. Let's thank our speaker once again for the presentation, and I'm sure if there's more questions, they will be happy to chat with you offline.
Sure. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.